So if you've watched my channel for a while, you know that I try to avoid being inherently negative. Criticism is fine, overall negativity I tend to frown upon. I'm gonna try my best in this video to remain critical and not stray into purely negative territory, because we are talking about exactly what the title says. A new virtual tabletop released this month for, tabletop role-playing gamers of D&D, Pathfinder, Call of Cthulhu, whatever. A brand new VTT trying to compete with Foundry and them that I think is a great example of how not to develop a virtual tabletop in 2023, especially leading into 2024. Also, I did get a haircut, thank you for noticing. This is Conclave Virtual Tabletop, a virtual tabletop that was released December 4th of this year, so literally about 2 weeks old at the time of recording this. And it boasts itself as a simplistic, atmospheric 3D tabletop. And it's got some really interesting quotes on its store page. Let's start there. Conclave is a simple and intuitive way to take your TTRPG campaign to the next level, blah blah blah, blah blah blah. Conclave is all about the experience, not the numbers. There's no managing stats or fiddling with complex mazes of menus, which I'll come back to that point in just a minute. We'll assume you've already got the character sheets covered. I do not like that statement. I get what they're going for. They're saying, hey, we're here to provide you an explorable interactive map, not a system manager. But the way they word, we'll assume you've already got the character sheets covered, I just don't like the way that's worded. It feels presumptive, I guess. Like they're too good for character sheets, that's on you. Conclave aims to not only replicate the classic tabletop gaming experience, but also enhance it and make it easier than ever to get your group together. Conclave is built with local multiplayer in mind, so players in the same room can simply pass a controller or two around. Online players needn't worry though, as Conclave fully supports Steam's Remote Play Together service. Once again, we'll get back to this. So Conclave is pretty straightforward on what it wants to be. It wants to be your map. It doesn't care what system you're playing, you have the character sheets on your own side. All it does is give you a map, miniatures, and dice to roll. That is all Conclave does. You import a map, and you import your minis. And there you have it. That is your map. You can play with things like lighting, time of day, and 2 precipitation options. That's about it. You can change the size of the grid. Overall, it's a piece of software. It is a very bare bones $20 piece of software that I am going to go over my pros and cons of. I'm sure you can already tell I've got sort of a negative leaning opinion going into this, and I'm gonna try to keep a smile on my face and start with the pros of Conclave. So I'm gonna start with a pro that the game itself does boast about. It is very simple. You load up the game, you spawn a map, you click a place, and boom, you're in Costco. You click to spawn a figure, you click a location, you click included figurines, and you've got a fighter there, you've got a knight there, and you've got a berserker over there who's fallen over. You click and hold on a mini and you drag to move them. It tells you exactly how far they're moving, 5 feet per square, which is really, really nice. Right click on a mini to rotate them. You can move around. You can even just change the size of your map if you need to. It's all very simple. And that's what the game wants to be. It wants to be very simple. At its core, what you're looking at is what you get. You can spawn in a map, you can move around tokens, there's like a couple nice quality of life issues to let you know you move 20 feet over to the Rice Krispie treats. It's fine. The other pro is that it's affordable. This is a one-time $20 purchase. No subscription. You only technically need to buy 1 copy because there's no reason to buy more than 1 copy. More on that later. If you're looking for just an easy, affordable option, one person can drop a $20 bill and you all have a tabletop. Now, there are even more affordable options like Owlbear Rodeo. Owlbear is fine. They've recently switched to an optional subscription model, but for what this is trying to do, Owlbear can also do it completely for free. The only main benefit you get from paying for Conclave is that there are fully 3D models. You can see here the models are rendered in 3D, and as such you can actually choose whether you want to play with 3D models or alternatively you can spawn in tokens that are flat and switch to the 2-dimensional view. which it works fine. Just don't try to use 3-dimensional tokens in 2-dimensional mode, because they are really obscure and hard to tell what you're actually looking at. And like I said, you only need to buy 1 copy of this, and that's because it is designed, like I said, either for local multiplayer or Steam Remote Play. Let's start with local multiplayer. You know, this has some controller support, or if everybody is sitting around one computer, you know, oh, it's the fighter's turn, so he can, oh gosh, where'd I go? It's the berserker's turn, so he can move and attack, and then, you know, I'll stand up. Jorge will sit down and be like, all right, my knight's gonna move up behind the berserker and attack. Oh, they bump into each other? Huh. Yeah, and I guess you would just play hot seat. I don't know how it works with a controller. Is my controller plugged in? It is. Oh, okay. Okay, so controller, you move the cursor around with the left stick, you rotate with the right stick. Okay, so hold down A to move, hold down A and left trigger to rotate, but the camera still moves with you. Okay. I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of the control, but it feels like this was designed with controller first in mind, weirdly enough. Like this was going to be released on like Switch or something. The controller feels fine. I guess you can see all the controls on screen, and I think the keyboard was designed second. Not to jump into a con right now, but it's just a good time to talk about it. The controls feel very unnatural. If you hold down, you know, WASD moves. Holding down middle mouse pans really fast and really strong. So I don't know if I can really get this across how little I'm moving the mouse, but that's what middle mouse does. And then of course you can scroll. But in order to rotate the camera, it's not right click and drag. You know, like every other game in the last 20 years, right-click drag is not rotate. You have to hold down shift and move the mouse. Not like, there's no mouse button, it is holding down shift or control, and then any movement of the mouse rotates. It feels super unintuitive. Another pro, the environment menu is fun. Oh, what time is it at Costco? Is it afternoon? Is it evening? Oh, are they closed? Is it nighttime? Having a slider to change the time of day with reactive shadows is pretty cool. I'll give it that. That's a nice little slider you can play with. You can go over here and be like, oh no, it's snowing in Costco. Where's the snow? It's snowing in Costco. That's the max, huh? You can add lightning, apparently. Snow lightning? Oh. And then you can change the overall tint of the entire screen. The effects are cool. You know, it's cute, it's nothing mind-blowing, but it's cute. Last thing I can think of, you can give him a health bar. Oh, you can put health here, and then if the knight takes damage, okay, there's health bars. I guess if you have a boss, that works. You know, you can have a boss health bar. That's actually pretty cool. I'll give you that. A lot of virtual tabletops don't have, like, a big, fancy boss health bar when you click on them. The last really good thing I can say is the status effects are cute. You're on fire? Cool. Your character is literally visibly on fire. You're charmed? You're poisoned? It's cool, you know? You cast a healing spell, you go, boom, your character is engulfed in holy light. It's fine. It's a pro, you know? It's a cute little thing. Active, visible status effects are cool. Alright, unfortunately, I think that's the end of my pros list, so I guess let's jump into the cons. Apologies if I repeat anything that I've said in the intro or the previous section, I'm just going down my list. The first con, this is clearly just a basic software. It's a very hyper basic, offline, single player software that you import maps, import figurines, and move them around the board. Pretty awkwardly at that. I don't know if it's shown. You can't just click and drag a unit, by the way. You have to click, wait until the feet appear, and then move it. So you have to hold for like a quarter second before you start moving your mouse, which again, feels very unintuitive. Overall, it feels like an alpha. The software itself is super basic. It only comes with, the only assets it comes with are these like 15 included figurines here. Everything else that you want, whether it's, yeah, a Hero Forge, my figures, included figures, you have to get that yourself. Now, that does say Hero Forge. Oh, that's how you do it. Oh, this was not scripted. This was designed for mobile, wasn't it? Was this designed as like a mobile phone virtual tabletop at first? Why is there a digital keyboard when my normal keyboard works? Oh, I guess because if you're playing with... Oh my gosh. Was this their answer for controllers? I don't know. This makes me feel like it was designed for mobile first, but that's a conspiracy theory for another day. You can enter your Hero Forge access key to import your library of minis you've made on Hero Forge and load them directly into Conclave. I don't have a Hero Forge account. I've made a few minis for fun, but I usually just screenshot them and then close it, and then they're deleted because I don't have an account. But yeah, if you have Hero Forge minis, I was actually, one of my cons was that I couldn't figure out how to get it to work. Turns out, how do I, oh, okay. Turns out you just have to go to spawn new figure, try to spawn a figure, and then click the Hero Forge folder. That's how you do it. I was sitting here looking through the menus, trying to figure out, oh, reset Hero Forge? Couldn't figure it out. So there you go. I just learned how to import my Hero Forge minis in case you needed to know. I guess I'll put that back in pros. I wish that was explained. I wish that was like one of the first things that was told to me. Because there's no tutorial for this, by the way. You just have to figure it out. But yeah, it's just a basic software with very few assets pre-added. You have to add everything yourself, which inherently isn't terrible, but I feel like something like Tabletop Simulator gives you a lot more to play with. Now let's talk about the big thing that it touts, remote play. You only need to buy one copy of Conclave, and then as many people as you want can join by using remote play together. Now don't get too excited, because this doesn't work very well. In case you're unaware, remote play together is not a multiplayer function. It's not like this game is online and someone is joining your tabletop like they do in Foundry or Roll20. No, what remote play together means is that they also gain access to your game. You are the same player. If they move their mouse, it will move the cursor, just like your mouse does. Which means the more people you have in there, unless everyone is specifically hands off their keyboards when it's not their turn, you are sharing control and fighting each other to move things on the map, which isn't great in something like a TTRPG where the GM needs to move and see things that the players can't see. So, while they do boast remote play together, you only need one copy, yeah, but it's sort of like everyone huddling around the same game console and passing the controller back and forth, not everybody playing at the same time. And everyone has to share the same camera angle, too. You know, if you join my Conclave remote play together, this is what you're seeing. If you want to change the camera angle, cool, but you're changing it for everybody else too. So like if you're in combat and it's not your turn and you're like, oh, I need to see how far away these guys are. You can't do that because you are now taking control away from everybody else. While you're doing this, somebody else can't control it, or they can and you're fighting each other. Let's talk about another aspect, the Fog of War, something any good VTT should have, and this does. There's two modes for it. There is draw a shape and fog appears, or there is draw the fog yourself however you want to. And it's not that useful. See, Fog of War hides the map. It doesn't hide units because there's no GM mode. Remember, if you're playing with remote play or playing locally, everybody sees the same screen. So the GM can't be like, aha, look at these guys under the Fog of War. No. You want to know how you have to do this? Because it is super awkward. You need to take, if you're the GM, you need to, ahead of time, take all of your enemies, move them into the spot, then click each enemy. Set their layer to enemy. Click this guy, layer, enemies. This guy, layer, enemies. Then you can go ahead and put your Fog of War on top of them. Cool. And finally, you have to go to Visibility of Layers and turn off enemies. And that will affect every single enemy on that layer. So if you, as the GM, were like, alright, check this out, I'm good. That's a con we'll talk about in a minute. Some hunters in this Fog of War right here. And then you set them to enemies as well, because they're enemies. Then it comes to game time, and you decide, alright, you guys enter the room. The fog of war in the Costco is cleared by the peanut brittle, and you see the dudes. And then all of a sudden, these dudes over here are also visible, because they're on the enemy's layer. And it looks like you can't even add layers. So you've got 10 layers to work with. This is why VTTs typically have a GM mode, a GM editor, where they can individually change the visibility and everything of all the other units. And especially, the GM can't even move these units if they're off, because they're disabled. If I wanted to change the orientation of these units, I would have to say, okay, everybody look away, please. Can everybody stop looking at the screen? Okay, now I need to move these guys over here because you sounded the alarm. And then, oh my god, they won't drag. Then, okay, you can look again. It's really awkward. I've said enough, I think. There's one more thing I want to cover, and this is just poor UI. You can already tell the UI is not perfect. The weird see-through menus aren't great. If you've got the lighting up too high, that's lightning. If you've got the lighting up too high, like, these menus can get really hard to read really fast. Like, if you're hovering over the wrong thing or the wrong menu, reading this can be a nightmare. And in case that wasn't bad enough, you have to close each window. Because if you try to open another window, it's just gonna go over it. And over it. And that closes the other windows. It makes... The UI is not finished. The UI is incredibly awkward. It overlaps itself multiple times. And it's just not intuitive. And that's the biggest thing holding Conclave back. If you're going to be one of the simplest VTTs on the market, you have to nail being intuitive. If it is simple and unintuitive, nobody is going to want to use it, because the beauty of simplicity is how easy it is to use and utilize. If things like the UI and the controls are not intuitive, people are going to give up very quickly, and you're not using the benefit of being simple. Yeah, you boast that you don't need your character sheets or your system rules in here. Well, that's just as much of a bad thing as it is a good thing, depending on who you're talking to. Some people might like having their digital character sheet in there. If you're going to nix those features, and that's a lot of features being cut out, you need to make sure you nail the simple ones. So, as it stands, I would avoid Conclave Virtual Tabletop right now. I'm not saying it's going to be awful forever. Maybe they can't... God, sorry, calling it awful, that's freaking brutal. But I am honest, if nothing else. I want to be honest about the things I review on this channel, and as it stands, I cannot recommend Conclave for anybody. If you want something cheap and simple, go with Owlbear Rodeo. If you want really immersive, go with Foundry. There's not a reason to buy Conclave right now, especially at the $20 price point. The remote play is touted as this fancy loophole where you only need to buy the game once, but it's not gonna work the way you want it to, so... There you have it. Conclave. Let me know what you think in the description. Have you used Conclave yet? What were your opinions? Were you thinking about it? I want to hear from you. I don't like to be negative, but I will be critical, and things like this I feel like I need to be critical of, so that developers and consumers know exactly where the market stands right now. So, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, no nat ones.